That means.
Yeah.
Howdy doody time.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Oh, I was going to pull up the
flag.
Yeah.
I see it on your screen.
Hold on. Hold on.
It's right there.
Go down.
It's right here.
There.
Okay.
I see it.
All right. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's still difficult to do with all the timing. Today's moment of inspiration will be given by Lorelei Verley.
I am basing my inspirational prayer on this last Rotary magazine that we got. And in it, it shares the 4 goals that they have going forward for Rotary. And so let us pray together. Eternal and awesome God, we come to you grateful for our Rotary Club that is ever evolving and growing. Thank you for showing us how much can be accomplished this year in spite of very real challenges. We are grateful for our leadership and for each member. Give us courage to keep navigating new territory. We've just been challenged by Rotary International to plan toward 4 priorities. 1, increase our impact. So we ask you to help us do the things that matter and make us effective in what we choose to do. 2, expand our reach. As life continually changes, keep us more connected to each other and to our world. Help us learn more and more about what is going on all around us. 3, enhance our engagement. Keep us from just sitting and watching while others do the work. Put a fire in each of us to find the part where we can serve to accomplish our mutual Rotary goals. 4, increase our ability to adapt. Keep us nimble and open to new ideas and faces so our club evolves to reflect more and more of our community and develop significant partnerships. These are good goals and can certainly be accomplished as you guide and empower us. We trust you above all. Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
Amen. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Fort Wayne. Do we have any visiting Rotarians today? I'm looking.
Yeah, we do.
Yes, I'm Jocelyn Smith, the HR manager at Val Bruna, sitting in for Tiziana Briazzo.
Oh.
Welcome.
Thank you.
This is Rob Harmon. I'm the director at the Miro Center at Parkview Health.
Rob, welcome.
This is John Frischi, district governor.
John, welcome to the Fort Wayne Rotary Club.
Well, thanks for the invitation.
Do we have any guests or Rotarians? Seeing none at this time, if you've not already done so, please check in online and social media and tell your friends that you are visiting or attending the best Rotary Club on the face of the earth. This date in history. On this date, November 30th, in 1824, the U.S. House of Representatives began proceedings to decide the outcome of the recent presidential election between John Quincy Adams and Andrew Jackson. There were, at that time, several political parties, and I think there were 4 candidates that received votes. Jackson had received the most popular vote and had the most electoral votes, but none of them had enough to win the election. And so the House started working on November 30th to decide the winner, who they selected as Adams, and they made that decision on February the 5th. I'm just saying. On this date in 1955, Rosa Parks is arrested for refusing to move to the back of the bus and give up her seat to a white passenger in Montgomery, Alabama. I don't believe she ever took a back seat to anyone after that. And finally, in 2004, and this seems more recent than this, after winning 74 straight games and more than $2.5 million, a record for US game shows, Jeopardy contestant Ken Jennings loses. By that time, his winning streak had provided huge ratings boost and turned the software engineer from Salt Lake City into a TV hero and household name. And now, Mr. Jennings is the interim host of Jeopardy with the recent passing of Alex Trebek. And on this date in history, in rock history, in 1982, Michael Jackson released his 6th studio album, Thriller, which would be awarded the Album of the Year and remain the best-selling album of all time until 2018, when the Eagles' Greatest Hits, an album that was released 6 years prior in 1976, surpassed it in sales. Thriller, you may also remember, is the album that introduced the famous moonwalk. You remember the moonwalk? It went like this. You'll have to trust me that my feet did the right thing. And then this date in history. Our Rotary will be provided by David Van Gilder.
Thank you, President Pete, and good to see all my fellow Rotary members here. Rotary today is going to be short and sweet. I say Rotary is a home, and because this is Rotary, there's 4 parts to this. The first part is that Rotary is most assuredly a home for ideas that become action. All of us have sat around in many meetings, whether it's in our professions or our other volunteer activities, and a lot of talk and not much action sometimes. But I have to say this group of Rotary members talks and then they act. And so Rotary is a home for ideas and action. Second, Rotary is a home for connections. I think many of us would never cross paths other than for Rotary Club. We wouldn't cross paths professionally or personally. So Rotary is a home for connections. And Rotary is literally a home for the exchange students. I know my daughter 15 years ago benefited as a Rotary exchange student by living with 5 different families outside of Johannesburg in South Africa. And many of you have hosted exchange students or supported others hosting exchange students. So it's literally a home. And then finally, the 4th element for me is that Rotary is a home for me. Now it's got a permanent spot on my Monday calendar. It says Rotary every Tuesday, or every Monday, I'm sorry. And so not Tuesday. So Rotary is a home in 4 ways. And thanks for having me.
Thank you, David. Now, as you remember, our Rotary Is moment took the place of our Sergeants program. So while we're not sitting around the table that we can put our $3 in the pot, we remind you that you can use our PayPal on the spin that you receive weekly to make a contribution to the Rotary Is Fund, because that provides the funding for many of our programs. So please consider making a contribution to bring our fine dollars, if you will, our service dollars now, up to snuff. Do we have any high fives? I see no hands in the air. Oh, wait, okay. Jim Craig.
Yes, as usual, I always highlight our birthdays in the immediate family, and we just celebrated the 14th birthday of our grandson, who is an 8th grader at Emmanuel St. Michael's. And that was on the 27th, the day after Thanksgiving, which is actually when we got together for Thanksgiving because of everything else going on. But anyway.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jim. Barb, you have one?
Yes, I have a high five for Mike Weber, who is on the social media committee, and through Hootsuite, he is posting our social media posts each week on Instagram and on Facebook and on LinkedIn, and he's created a LinkedIn presence for us. We're having quite a few social media posts, so please come and visit us, like us, and if at all possible, share us, because that gives us the most exposure. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb. And I will get you that request that you had for me. Just haven't.
Thank you. Woohoo! Okay, well, you know what it is. So as long as you brought it up, what will be on social media then, because last week, Jeff gave us his parody of the Queen song Bohemian Rhapsody, and Mike had the idea, don't just print his words, have Jeff sing them. So I said, Jeff, you've got to video yourself singing the parody you gave us last week about Is This the Good Life? So anyway, there's something to look forward to this week on social media. Woohoo, woohoo. Okay.
Thank you, Barb.
You're welcome.
We'd like to thank our Rotary workers this week. The SPIN editor is Mark Westerhausen. And it says on my program, the AV is Kurt Boykel, but I think, Lynn, you're actually the AV assistant today. So thank you for your work. At this time, I see a new member on here, and I believe, Stephanie, you're going to give us the introduction.
I am. I'll be short and sweet so Justin can say a few words if he would like. It's my pleasure and honor to introduce our newest member to Rotary, Justin Klupper. Justin has worked for the Fort Wayne Museum of Art, for Greater Fort Wayne, Inc., and he is currently the Executive Director of CTN. I will let Justin say a few words if he would like. The floor is yours.
Thanks,
Be sure to
Stephanie.
unmute yourself.
Thank you. Excited to be part of the group and join you in conversations and learning and growing. Excited about the service opportunities. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Justin. Welcome to Rotary, and welcome in particular to the Fort Wayne Rotary Club. I'm thrilled to see that we're up to 51 people, which means we are now on to 3 pages. Woohoo! Also, I believe, Ron, you have a announcement regarding the food drive.
Yes, we're doing our food drive this year. Between the Peace Committee and the Local Service Committee are sponsoring it together. And because of our being virtual, it's going to be very hard to collect food and take it. So I have talked to Wellspring, and on December the 8th, they're open from 8:30 to 4:30 on December the 8th. Any of you who would like to drop anything off, and because it's the Christmas season, they said it can be dry goods, but if you'd like to bring staples for a Christmas dinner they could bring, you could do that too. So any of you that would like to drop any food to Wellspring, you just have to drop it off there and they'll come out and pick it up. 8:30 to 4:30 is their hours that they're open on, I think it's Tuesday, December the 8th.
What is the address, Ron?
What's the address for Wellspring? Let me pull it up a minute. I'm sorry.
It's on Broadway.
Yeah, it's on Broadway.
Can I remind people to mute yourself
Broadway.
if you're
1316 Broadway Street.
okay? And then Chuck, you had a announcement regarding the book discussion.
Oh.
Chuck? Unmute yourself. There you go.
I muted myself. Book discussion is tomorrow night at 6 p.m. The book is The Strength of Love by Dr. Martin Luther King. And the link is the Rotary link to attend. You notice in the margin, I asked people just to let let us know how many people are coming. It just gives us an idea. And Jackie and I will be co-moderating it. Just so people know, Julie had a death in her family. She would have been normally moderating it. So anybody wants to send any messages to her, I think it was her mother-in-law that passed away. And we welcome everyone's participation.
Jeff, I'd like to add, this is Dee,
yes,
that we will be recording it, but it's preferable that you're there in person if you can be, because then you get to, you know, talk. But there will be a recording.
Okay, super. Any other announcements? You know that you all should have received on Sunday your dues for the spring semester, if you will. And in the email, we also announced that the board approved a $60 reduction on the dues, recognizing that we wanted to encourage people to stay active in Rotary. And so we're approved a one-time $60 reduction in the dues. So you received that bill, please pay it. And lastly, if you want to use our Zoom room for a committee meeting or some other meeting you need to have with fellow members, please contact us to reserve your spot. If you are not making an announcement, we ask you to please keep your room muted.
Jeff, I just muted you.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem. That brings us to our program today, and our program will be introduced by John Hoffman.
Good afternoon. I'm really pleased to welcome Evan Wood as our speaker today. I met Evan through a group that I belong to at the Huntington Chamber. Evan facilitates a group of business leaders in the Huntington area, and we meet, I can't believe this, at 7 o'clock in the morning on Fridays. But Evan comes and leads a discussion on different business ideas, leadership, organization, and he does that as part of Evan Wood Consulting. And Evan's strengths are in strategic planning, leadership development, business strategy, organizational development. But Evan also serves as the Senior Director of Human Capital for Fort Wayne Metals. And we all know that Fort Wayne Metals is just under the guidance of Scott Glaze and Melissa Glaze, just pioneering in Indiana, active in the community from all kinds of community development, but really has grown Fort Wayne Metals in many, many ways. And I think Evan is a key part of Fort Wayne Metals in the way that he plays an important role in keeping their pipeline of skilled labor, feeding their constant growing needs of everything from industrial mechanics to keep their equipment running, to their production people, to coming up new and inventive ways to keep increasing production. And he's talked about some of those things to our leadership group in Huntington. And he shared with us that they've looked at different ways to keep finding new workers, from going to Puerto Rico to recruit people, to how difficult it is to find skilled workers. And he shared with us recently how they have purchased an old empty store in the southeast part of the city, an old Mr. Wiggs store. And one of the creative things that they're doing there, and it really caught my attention, and I was fascinated by it. And I've invited Evan to come speak to us today about that project. And I think you'll find it very interesting also. And I think very innovative. Evan is in charge of this program, and I think he'll share with us, but if I understand it right, He'll be heading this project up directly for the next 2 years before he turns it over to his regular human resources department. So if you would, please welcome Evan Wood from Fort Wayne Metals.
Good morning. I recognize a few faces in here. I'm going to share my screen real quick, except I don't have the ability to share my screen. I need the host to give me the ability if possible, mostly because I have some pictures I'd like to show and tell. There we go. I can do that. That is the one to share. So if that's working right, you should see a PowerPoint with our logo on it. Actually, that's not the screen I want to share. I want to share the actual presentation. There we go. Now, if I'm doing it right, you should see the presentation I want. I appreciate the introduction, John. You said an awful lot of nice things that I wouldn't say about me, but since I don't know everyone on here will say they're true. I can't really introduce this project without a little bit of background on Fort Wayne Metals, and I won't waste your time with too much, but just a couple high-level items. We were founded in Fort Wayne 1970 by Ardell Glaze. That's important because he's center to this project. Still family-owned and oriented. 97% of our business is medical device. So if you're interested, we need elective surgeries to come back. We're doing okay, but that's pinching business just a little bit. A lot of FDA and ISO registered info. 50 years of sustained growth, even through, we have over 1,300 employees now, and even through this pandemic, that's 50 years with 0 layoffs. And we have every intent to keep it that way. 11 production facilities in US and Europe. Our own R&D facility in a 30,000 square foot building here on campus. Just under 1.2 million under roof. Actually, with this newest building, we're now about 1.8 million or 1.18 million square feet, and then staff in a few other places. Our mission is critical to what we're doing. So I just throw this up here, but we're constantly in the battle to be better, be faster for our customers. And the last 6-7 years, that's been a challenge because finding and training skilled labor has not been easy. That's a nice problem to have for the region because that means unemployment's been low. But nonetheless, it's a challenge. And in particular, highlight as my final segue into talking about this project is the top 2 of our core values. One is, and this is the number one, is our people are the source of our strength. We are central, focused centrally on our employees and what they bring. And then not just our employees, but the second part, the culture within our organization and our support of our community are the basis by which we'll be judged. We do not judge ourselves by our balance sheet, by our income statement, by our cash flow statement. No doubt we certainly look at those, but we want to be judged in the marketplace by how our products perform, especially being medical device, how our employees feel. Scott Glaze would say that he wants our employees to live in nice homes, drive nice cars, and take nice vacations. And that's something we strive to set up and structure to do. And then the way we support our community. So how does that all fit? We just opened this month a new building we're calling the James Building. The James Building is in Southeast Fort Wayne, and it's named this because when Ardell Glaze was a teenager, he was with a group of friends in Akron. They kind of ran the streets, and they went in and they robbed a bunch of pecans from a bakery. They'd gone in through a chute, robbed these pecans. As they kind of got out, the bakery of the basement, the bakery owner came out, screaming at the boys, who did it? All the boys ran off. Ardell stopped and came back and said, I did it. The owner, rather than calling the cops and trying to seek retribution, said, I'll make you a deal. I won't call the cops. I won't tell your parents as long as you come and work for me. I expect to see you here tomorrow. That was Mr. James Bakery in Akron. That led to a multi-year mentorship in which Ardell Glaze ended up being the manager of the bakery, which then took him off the streets and set him on a path towards where he ended up going to college and was an accomplished engineer and went to medical school, and long story short, founded Fort Wayne Metals. So we've named this project the James Building because that's much of what we're trying to do. For location's sake, if you see the big red star, we're at the corner of Hannah and 27. For reference, I can see the Community Harvest Food Bank from the front of our parking lot. So if you have a rough idea of where we're located, we'll talk a little bit about why that location and what we're doing. But we just started production in that facility this month. Couple pictures. I don't know how many on this call remember this, but this was the old Mr. Wiggs building. Dennis Roars, who's been with us 28 years, is our director of HR that works for me, who's now located in this building. And he remembers as a young kid growing up in Southeast Fort Wayne, going to this grocery store every Sunday. That's what the building looked like when we acquired it. It had been a flea market, had been a church that went bankrupt. It had sat pretty empty and dilapidated. And that's a little bit of the front before it was finished. And I use this picture in particular because this is where the story of why we're doing this takes off. That's a picture of Javier Mondragon. I don't know how many people have met Javier, Bridge of Grace Ministries, but this idea spurred from a meeting that me, Dennis Rohr, Scott Glaze, and Javier were having. And what we were talking about was how we can partner with him to transport employees from the neighborhood there in Southeast Fort Wayne to work on our campus for training. And the transportation issue was a real challenge. And out of that, we said, let's quit worrying about transportation. Let's take the work to the neighborhood. Let's eliminate the challenge. Out by the airport where our main campus is, we're not on a bus line. And so we went on the hunt to find a facility. It took us about 7 months. We came across this facility and put that together. But Javier is a key partner in this. And it was out of meeting with him that this idea kind of spurred. A few more pictures of what it looked like before we took it over.
Wow.
I can't show you pictures of the finished product inside now because some of the equipment we have in there is protected both by export and military rules and other interesting things. But that's what it looked like shortly before we started to put equipment in there. New driveway went in last week, but this is a picture of the exterior of the building. You can see quite a renovation, new roof and lots of neat things. So it's a really sharp looking building now, night and day from what it once looked like. But what is our purpose? What are we doing? These are in no particular order, but one of the things we wanted to do is how do we tap into an underutilized labor pool? There's a large population in Southeast Fort Wayne, ready and willing to work, and not always with the same access. So I live up in Leo. I have lots of access where I live for work. I'm well aware the network of friends that I run with is connected. And we have a number of people in Southeast Fort Wayne ready and willing to work that don't have the same network and same access to jobs. And so that's one of the reasons is we have this underutilized labor pool we want to be able to tap into. I already talked about how going there solved the transportation issue. We no longer need to worry about the bus line or where we're located. We're in the neighborhood. We thought it was important that we brought good jobs to Southeast Fort Wayne. I mean, Southeast Fort Wayne has had its challenges over the years. It started with a renovation of the Southtown Mall area, the police academy area that's down there, but how do we take more jobs? And so we were working with Javier and Habitat for Humanity on housing, and housing is critical. Food is critical, but jobs and wages are also critical. And so we want to be a part of that. And rather than throw money directly at the problem. We thought, what do we do best? We've created jobs over the years. We know manufacturing. We know how to train people for that. We thought, why not go there and do that? And then to develop and maintain strong partnerships in the neighborhood. One of the things we learned early on is, well, we know our work. We don't know the work of Javier, Luther Whitfield, the Literacy Alliance, some of our other key partners in that area. So why not tap into their expertise? And so we have this growing network of partners that we're working with in this project. So what exactly is this project? This project is just another manufacturing facility. It's jobs, but with a few unique twists. So first, the only way to get hired into this facility is through our partners. We are not posting on Indeed, LinkedIn, all those other things that are successful for my HR team when we're filling our normal jobs. These jobs are being made available through our partners because we really want to hire from the neighborhood. So we just opened up, transferred some employees because of the equipment, but our first 3 job openings are actively being recruited for right now from the neighborhood. We went with an incentive-based pay. So we went with a high base pay. All these jobs will pay the same as they do on our campus. No jobs are going to be lower paid than what we already pay on our normal campus. For frame of reference, all our jobs on this campus are $18.50 to $23.50 an hour in our manufacturing area. So these jobs are paying that. This is not a project to save cost on labor. But not only is it a high base, we have a behavior-based bonus system. Our goal is to partner with people who maybe haven't had a steady job or they've jumped from fast food job to fast food job and so on, and they've not been able to keep it, to not just train them on the work, but train them on how to be successful in the workplace. And so we have some incentives tied to that, whether that's attendance, whether that's the way they live out what we call our ideal behaviors. We have 9 ideal behaviors. The quality of their work is all tied into that wage. Another unique to us concept that we've instituted is daily pay. So when you have been in a role where you've struggled to maintain work and you have kids and you have other challenges, to start a job, and as most of our jobs go, work 2 weeks, then they run payroll, and on the 3rd week, you get the check for the prior 2 weeks. So you have to work 3 weeks to get a check. That's not financially sustainable for people that are trying to get out of a system and into work. So the way we've set it up is if you work Monday, you come in Tuesday, you get a check. You work Tuesday, you come in Wednesday, you get a check, and so on and so forth. And so that's going to run for the first 90 days. Is they're going to get daily pay. After the first 9 days, it then becomes weekly pay. So they never go longer than weekly pay. That's one of the keys we believe in helping people through this transition into the work. Another unique aspect that we're throwing in is what we're calling whole person training. So sure, we're going to train them on how to run our equipment, how to do the job, but we're also going to put in language training. So we're partnering with people for English as a second language. We're partnering with people for financial literacy. I have this income. How do I start to manage it, build up a savings, build up a portfolio, cut my costs, live within my means, so on and so forth, get out of debt. We're partnering, and this is with the Literacy Alliance and other partners for education. So you may not have your GED. How do we partner? And so one whole wing of the facility is classrooms and training rooms with a separate entrance so that community partners can deliver training and education at all hours in the facility. And we'll do some of that on the clock and some of that off the clock. And that's the Community Partner Training Center. And then the last thing is, rather than relying on just our jobs have a lot of transferable skills. But wire drawing, which is what we do, is pretty unique. That doesn't give you welding knowledge or other skilled trade knowledge. We took one of our suppliers that does centerless ground bar and some CNC, and they were based in Boston, and they were actually looking in Chicago or Minneapolis. And we've partnered with them and convinced them to relocate to Fort Wayne, Indiana. And they're going to relocate here April 1st. and bring about 30 jobs. Only one of those jobs is coming from Boston. The other 30 are all going to be hired in Fort Wayne. And the reason we partnered with them is, one, it's your more traditional skilled labor. Two, they're a key supplier to us and they were looking to the Midwest. But more importantly, they have a 25-year history of hiring non-English speaking employees and training them and working with them. And so we've learned a lot from them, a lot of trips out to Boston to learn their model, but what a better way versus trying to learn it and recreate it than to bring them here to do it with us. And so they're also going to be in 30,000 square foot of this building. So we're gonna have two companies located here, Fort Wayne Metals and this yet to be publicly named supplier that's bringing 30 jobs. So those are some of the unique things we're doing in this project. We're really excited to take this off. But with that as a quick overview, introduction, John thought there might be some questions.
Please unmute yourself if you have a question for Evan.
Yes, this is Barb. I have a question. How do you decide your projects? Because you have a lot of disparate things going on. So you have your core products, and then you have the Fort Wayne Distillery. And didn't you do something with a theater up somewhere in Auburn? And I don't know all else of what you've done, but so how do you choose what you do and where you do it?
Great question. The distillery, the Brokaw Theater up in Angola, J.K. O'Donnell's before he sold it to the managers, a number of buildings like Forteza Coffee. Those are all things Scott and Missy Glaze do. And I don't really have a clue how they decide how to do them. We all end up at Fort Wayne Metals helping support him in those and work with him closely. And they're always fun, but I like to say Scott is on those projects, a for-profit philanthropist. He will never make his money back that he invests in those, but he thinks they're important to the communities he does them in. And I think that's his final deciding factor is, will this help build the community? And then he does it. But I really don't know how he prioritizes doing some of those. This is a unique one being done within Fort Wayne Metals.
Evan, can you talk a little bit about the credit union you have on site? I hate payday lending.
Yes.
So many people get trapped in that.
Yeah,
I thought that was really unique.
I'm glad, thank you for the segue. So if you saw on the map, right at the opposite side of Hannah Street, also at the corner of Hannah and 27 is a ProFed credit union. And a number of these individuals don't have checking and savings accounts. And when you do weekly or multi-week pay, they do payday loans and they pay, if you look at the way all the fees and work, upwards of 30 to 40% of their check, they pay in interest and fees and really doesn't help them get out of the financial challenge they're in. And so that was one of the impetuses for daily pay. But then even when you get a check, say for, $80, $100, $150, without a checking account, you go to Kroger or some other location and you pay a fee of $3 to $10 to have your check cashed. As a percentage, that's quite a tax on your earnings, especially if you do that with multiple checks and daily pay. So we walked over to ProFed and said, hey, you're located right here. Can you partner with us in this? And they were a fantastic partner and will be, and they said yes. And so we've set up a program where these employees, whether they have a savings account or checking account or not, can cash their check for free. There is a small fee associated with that, but we're paying a monthly, almost membership fee for that service instead of the employee. And it's really minimal. I mean, ProFed's been fantastic. But they then have access to help our employees as part of our financial literacy set up a checking account, a savings account, and all those other mechanisms. So that's a part of what we're doing there. And ProFed's location was very serendipitous, but they've been a tremendous partner in it.
Evan, obviously, this is a great program, by the way. Companies are in business to make money, certainly. But it seems like over the past decades, the total focus has been on profit and stockholder return. Your company is taking it to a little different focus, a much different focus, let's say. Are you aware of other companies, or is there any kind of movement that you're aware of that might be able to shift our thinking a little bit past the idea of the bottom line is the only thing, that there may be other things that businesses ought to be focusing on?
You know, we weren't aware of anything like this, and that's where I have to give. So I was a college professor, and then I started my own consulting company. I had all this independence and free time. And the only reason I joined Fort Wayne Metals was because I got to know Scott Glaze. And Scott as an owner is not like any other owner investor I've ever known. He certainly has done well. There's no doubt about that. But he never puts his financial gain at the expense of our employees or the community. Don't get me wrong. He likes to earn a profit, and he is well aware of how well we're doing, but he does not do that at the expense. That's how we've gone 50 years without a layoff, because we've certainly had down years like this year before, just as one example. And so being privately held without other interest than his own is certainly part of that. Right. He takes the risk and he decides if he needs the reward or not. So I'm not aware from the profit standpoint. Now, that said, just last week, Cook Medical, who's a close partner of ours, just announced in Indianapolis something not too dissimilar from this. The difference is they funded a Goodwill building a facility and then are giving all the assembly work to Goodwill as a dedicated contractor. And they just announced that last week down in Indianapolis. So I thought that was interesting that we hadn't talked about this. They hadn't told us about their project, and now relatively close timeline, another similar project is happening. I do believe we will see more of this. This is a critical product line that we have in there, a couple critical customers in particular. We do expect to make money on this. We do expect that to be a long play though, because of the training costs and so we won't make our money back for a couple of years, but we do expect this to be a profit center. This is not a nonprofit training venture. And we've operated under the thought of, we've seen a lot of government programs, some successful, some not. We've seen a lot of nonprofit programs, some successful, some not. And we thought that we could integrate having the jobs with the training, with the support in one, cuts out a lot of middlemen. Very important middlemen. This is just one approach. But I think with the labor shortage, especially as boomers start retiring and the economy comes back post-COVID, that we'll see more companies take this approach because we have to train more people. We need access to more people. So I do think we'll see more companies doing things like this.
Can I help you with something?
Evan, I have a question. You folks have done so many things right. I was wondering in your new building if you qualified for LEEDs, or if you didn't, did you at least look into trying to qualify for a LEEDs building?
You know, that's a great question. We have a good and bad habit of getting an idea and saying, we're going fast. So we didn't look at tax incentives. We didn't look at LEEDs. We said, we bought it, let's convert it as fast as we can. Now, part of that is good that we went fast. Part of that means we've probably missed out on a few things as well because we went fast. But we did not go after any special incentives or certifications at all. Now, that said, our environmental group is pretty large and pretty strong. And we have a goal of a zero emissions footprint, and we look at our waste, and we're not there yet, but they were heavily involved. So I'm confident, without being my specialty, that we're fairly friendly, but I am sure we're not meeting all the certification requirements.
Evan, I had a question. This is Tim Gibson. Nice presentation. here's my question. Do you offer any type of transportation services for these day workers, so to speak? Because that's always seems to be a major hurdle for them to get there, on time, and things come up. And
so two things on that. One, our attendance approach is assuming that not everyone's going to make it on time or every day, 40 hours a week out of the chute. So we have planned some flexible schedule training and to help people as they learn this 8 to 5 type normal work. That's one. Two, we still have yet to solve the transportation issue. I saw Justin on here. One of his board members works for me, Karen Burgetts, and we've talked about when we get to that point, might there be an opportunity to partner with CTM or a like organization? Not putting Justin on the spot so he doesn't have to say, it's just the early stage to say, those are things we're looking at. But the major reason we located where we are is the neighborhoods we're looking to service are all blocks away, not drives away, not even miles away, so that we're on a bus line, but walking is an option. That's one of the reasons we located it there. But long-term, yes, we do want to look at additional transportation, especially because all of these jobs are qualified to then also work on our main campus. They may want to grow within the company. And so when you make that transition, if I don't have a car now, I may need access to something. And we don't want people just pigeonholed saying you can only work in this building. We mean this as an entry point to the rest of our campus.
Thank you.
But yeah, that's a problem we're gonna have to solve.
Hi, Evan. This is Jocelyn Smith. We met before. HR Val Bruno. You got my mind over here spinning with this program. So I have a couple of questions. So at the new building, what positions are you actually hiring for? That's one question. Two, what are the qualifications are you looking for? Or are you going to be lenient on people that don't have any experience, or that's what you're trying to target, people that don't have experience?
So we've intentionally targeted all the ranges of jobs that our production facility has. So from entry level that we'll call utility, jobs that just say, move this from point A to point B manually, box setting up. So we buy a lot of corrugated boxes and then have to build the boxes to package things. Those less skilled jobs we have, so the very entry level, no experience, all the way up and including our top wage wire drawer jobs. So our full production jobs, where normally we require years of manufacturing experience and to pass a test. I'll explain that in a second, including our maintenance, which is our skilled trade. So all our maintenance people are multi-craft. They're fabrication, welding, and electrical. They eventually get trained in all three. And so all of those range of jobs are in the building. Our intent is to be able to hire with no experience, no education, no training. And we will provide the rest. So in our normal production, if you were to hire off the street into one of our other buildings, we have this assessment that only has about a 35% pass rate.
Okay.
And it's a mechanical aptitude assessment. These jobs, rather than take that assessment to hire, that's part of our training program. And so that as they get experience in the facility and we go through this training, their time with us will count towards passing that assessment, and they can move into the wire drawing jobs.
Okay. Now, with those being some of the entry level positions, did you say $18 an hour, or those are lower paid?
No, so the way those start, and this is all our model, so it's the same model, those will start in the $13.50 to $14 an hour range, but we do raises at 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months.
Okay.
So at the end of 12 months, you're now at full rate for that job, whatever that job class is, which is what gets you into that $18 an hour plus range.
Wow.
And then you can promote into the wire drawing and such, which will get you in 2020 is around $23.50.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Evan, this is Irene Walters, and congratulations on this amazing project. My question is, are you working with Sharon Tucker or the Southeast Partnership in the city to maybe use this wonderful idea as a model and incentive for other companies to look at and maybe have a whole little area there?
That's a great question. And the answer is not yet, and I'll explain why. We want to. And the reason not yet is we've tried to take a very slow, low profile rollout of this because we aren't sure we've done it right yet. We think it's a neat idea and we think it's going to be good and we're committed to getting it right, but we're not sure that we've done it right yet. And so we wanted to kind of do a little lower profile rollout, get some success or even get some learnings out of the way before we broadcast too much. So we intend to, but like I said, we aren't sure we're right yet.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
We are, quite frankly, we aren't the first. I saw Rob Harmon on here. Parkview put a facility not too far away from us, clinic and such. And we looked at a little bit of what they did. It's not exactly the same, but you know, Parkview's in the community now, which is a key player. You know, and I hope there will be many others follow suit.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. How did you, or how did Scott find you? And how does Scott find key people like you to work for him?
I'll say dumb luck on my part. So I was a professor at Taylor University and I chaired the MBA program. My office was in the Innovation Center. I was doing some consulting and I was doing a CEO peer group that Scott was a part of. And one night over dinner, the group started talking about education in the workplace and a different model. And he invited me to meet with the executive team. And we ended up putting 25 Fort Wayne Metals employees through an MBA program starting in 2009. So in the midst of the recession, they funded 25 people through an on-site MBA program over 2 years. That's how I met him. But one of the students in that class was Jeremy Roars, who's now our president. And he was one of my students. And at the end of it, Jeremy said, would you do some executive coaching for me? And so I started doing some executive coaching and then I led to other consulting projects. Long story short, I had enough consulting with them and other places that I had to either keep teaching at Taylor and say no to consulting or go full-time into consulting. And so I went full-time into consulting. They were my largest client. 3 years of that. We were redoing a contract and we figured out how to bring me on board. But some of that was Scott was willing. So I'm only 80% of my time here. 20% of my time still Evanwood Consulting and some volunteerism and other activities. And Scott's willingness to create that structure allowed that. So to the second half of your question, I like to say, because of my role with HR, talent, culture department, like reporting to me, that I like to believe we have a good employment brand. I think people see us as a good place to work, a stable place to work. Like I said, 50 years, no layoffs. So people do find us, you know, that's part of it. But the majority of our talent was developed within. So if I look at our executive team, one person has been here less than 6 years. Everyone else has been here more than 12 on the executive team and all promoted into their executive roles. None were hired as exec. And the one person that was here 6 years, she was hired as an associate general counsel. And then when our general counsel went to a startup in Auburn, she was promoted in. But if I look at our director team, so we have 6 execs, 11 directors. 2 of those 11 we hired externally. I was external, I guess, in 2016, but I've been around the company quite a bit at the time. But most of our talent is developed within. We do hire externally some because we don't know everything we need to know, but I don't know if I really answered your question, but we like to create opportunity and growth has allowed that.
Evan, this is Dee Hoffman, and I do have a question. If you were a college professor before, you've probably published quite a bit. And I'm wondering if you're tracking this in terms of measures and how you're doing. I know it's hard at the beginning of a project because you're not quite sure what those should be, what you're, exactly what the goals are. But this, I'm with Irene on this. I think this is such a wonderful, wonderful project and approach and has so much to offer. And potentially, are you looking at this because if you would disseminate this throughout, if you find that it's successful, this could have some pretty major impact.
I told Gordon and OLS at IPFW that someday someone like him should come and do a case study and write. So I did publish quite a bit back in the day. And I always found a partner that was willing to do the data and details. I could do the design and the research, but I was not all that interested in the data, the stats, and the details. So I always had a research partner on the majority of my papers that was expert in that. And, but we have, we've not done anything. That's a great point, but I do think there's some case study. And like I said, I don't know that we've gotten it right. We are going to track lessons learned. We have spent a lot of time listening to the community partners that have been in the trenches in Southeast Fort Wayne. Interesting highlight, we went in with the idea saying, look, we're not going to drug test. We know drug testing eliminates a lot of people. And the community partner said, don't do that, drug test. And we said, really? And they said, yeah, it sends the wrong message that it's okay. And we wouldn't have done that on our own, being not in the neighborhood. We just assumed that was necessary. Now we changed our drug testing policy. On campus, if you fail a drug test, which we do a post-offer test, so you've been through the process, we want to hire you. If you fail it, we never reconsider you. Here, we'll reconsider you in 3 months. And we'll partner with the community. And the idea is we want to help people change that pattern. And so it's not a one strike and you're done approach like we've used on our main campus. But those are the kinds of things we're learning from listening to our partners. And we plan to do that a lot more. And I do think as we get this dialed in with our partners and experience that we should do a case study, some data, some publication off that. But I'll be looking, and this is an open call for a partner to help with that.
Is there any chance that you'll become a public company? Is there any discussion of that?
What was that?
Any discussion that you might become a public company?
I would bet my life that that will not happen. There's zero discussion right now. Obviously, Scott's less young than he used to be. And
we all are.
There's going to be a transition someday. But I would be shocked if that was the transition he made. Whatever transition is made I'm confident of, he and I have had this conversation, will be the transition that secures the most jobs in Fort Wayne. That I'm confident.
Well, Evan, we've greatly enjoyed your presentation today. Very informative, very unique aspects of what you're doing there that really make this, this project stand out as unique, and yet it sounds like you're on the road to great success there. So thank you for sharing today. Thank you for your presentation. As again, a wonderful program here at Fort Wayne Rotary. At this time, where's my last page? Here we go. Want to remind everyone that our program next week is going to be on the Rotary International Foundation. The speakers are Holly and myself. Be sure to come and hear all about some of the wonderful things that the foundation is doing. Lynn, if you could bring up the 3 Doors logo for Rotary. As you know, when we are meeting in person, I have my, my presidential cabinet that is a replica of this logo for this year for Rotary. And every week I select a member to select door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3, and win a prize. And so today I'd like to recognize John Huffman. John, I've not picked you for the doors before, have I?
No.
Well, John heads up our membership committee. He also leads our World Affairs Conference for not just the club, but for the district. And he's also a board member, so he's a great contributor to the club. And John, I'd like to recognize you and ask you to pick a door.
I'll pick red for the Indiana Hoosiers.
Well, that's an excellent selection. I'm an IU supporter myself. And what you've received today is a rock.
Great, thank you.
But I'm going to offer you.
Is that for a rock for the Memorial Stadium? Does that take us to the Rose Bowl?
No, unfortunately, it's just a rock like Charlie Brown receives every Halloween. So why don't you pick another door?
Gold.
Gold it is. And in your case, gold is gold. You have received a gift bag. And in this gift bag, there is a card that says, enjoy a look back to 1938. And there is a DVD that was produced many years ago. It's footage of Fort Wayne in 1938. So if you grew up here in town, it's a great look back on what town was like in 1938. And included in this bag is a gift card for Coney Island. Ooh. You are a double winner today, my friend. Like I said, gold is gold. So thank you, John, for everything that you do for the Fort Wayne Rotary Club. And with that, I normally end the meeting with a quote from the top 100 movie lines as selected by the American Film Institute, but I was so inspired by Evan's presentation today, and 2 points of his presentation really stood out to me. One, that they're building this factory within walking distance of many of the people that they're looking to hire to really improve the unemployment in that area. So the selection of the building was impactful from that standpoint, and the fact that they're paying daily, which really helps those people start out in a new job and not have a financial negative impact on them. So the 2 quotes, and I've never done 2 quotes before, the 2 quotes that came to mind today are from the 1996 movie Jerry Maguire, Show Me the Money, and from the 1969 movie Midnight Cowboy, I'm walking here, I'm walking here. Because they're walking and he's paying them fast. So there you go. And as Rotarians, we look to the 4-way test to guide our thoughts, words, and actions. So please reciting the test as we prepare to adjourn for the week ahead. Of the things we think, say, and do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill, better friendships?
Will it be beneficial?
All concerned? Rotary